Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Stryking Fury proudly presents to you episode 47 for your Empire Strykers of the MASL with Philly, Panda, and the Doctor. We are your podcast. And if you ain't down with that, we got 2 words for you. Hang out. That's right, folks. Hang out with us. We've got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. We're in a very jovial mood here on episode 47 of Stryking Fury because, well, our Empire Strykers, your Empire Strykers, are they're doing really good things. They're setting trends. They're on a winning streak, 6 in a row, 8 out of the last 9, and it's been quite some time since we've been on this much of a streak. So we're going to talk to you about our terrorizing of Tacoma momentarily, but first let me introduce myself. I said it earlier. I am Christian Philemon. My friends call me Philly. If you're listening to this podcast, then you're my friend, so you can call me Philly. Joining me in this room right over here in world-famous Philomonster Studios, my beautiful, lovely wife, podcast partner, and sideline reporter for the Empire Strykers, Amanda,
Panda is here in the studio, sans any kind of beverage because, well, we'll talk to you all about that in just a minute. Probably not a good idea to start drinking this late in the evening while we're recording based on what we're going to be doing. But let's go ahead and introduce our third and definitely not last, Dr. Jonathan Reimer. What's going on?
Bienvenidos y buenos tardes, amigos. Yo soy el doctor. Just freshly back from a vacation in Mexico and freshly awaiting a morning trip return south of the border. But more on that in a moment. Glad to be back stateside. Spent the last few days down in Jalisco, Mexico, in Ciudad de Tequila. A bucket list item for me after selling tequila for the better part of the last 20 plus years. To finally be able to go down there and get a tour of the land. La Tierra de Tequila was beautiful. I had a wonderful time, and I cannot wait to take Philly and Panda south of the border. I'm super looking forward to this next weekend. I did get to catch most of these 2 games, although not all of them. I cannot say that I was as attentive as I probably should have been, but folks, I was in tequila. Give me a break.
I imagine with the amount of añejo and reposado and blanco you consume that if you happen to, utilize the outdoors as your restroom, I imagine you would probably create agave with the amount of substance you consumed.
Sí, blancos, reposados, añejos, extra añejos, cristalinos, rosatos. I was having a good time. A couple cervezas thrown in between, maybe un poco rompope, but it was good times for sure. Had an absolute blast.
Not only were you in tequila, but tequila was in you.
He was swimming in tequila.
There's still a little bit in me for sure, but we're doing all right.
I could smell the añejo from your overweight here.
Well, we'll all get to experience that together, and I'm excited. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But while you were south of the border, we were almost on the other end of the borders going north. We were very, very close to Canada because, well, we made the trip up to see these games that we are going to talk to you guys all about here in just a moment. We made it up to beautiful Tacoma.
Yeah, we had a really good time. It was a last-minute decision. We've been saying all along that we wanted to go on more away days. And we finally just pulled the trigger. We said the heck with it. It's not a long flight. Let's go out there, support the boys in Seattle. I personally had never been. Pan did a shotgun trip when LAFC was in town and Angel City. So we took it upon ourselves to go. We got there on a Friday night. We hung out with our good friend Liz, and we got to hang out with Rob and Tina and Chris and a bunch of other people from the Empire Armada did take the trip up there. We certainly had a really good time, witnessed the boys, doing some good things. And we got to tour around the city. I had some of the best oysters I've ever had in my life, some of the best clam chowder I've ever had in my life. Went back to doing things I really enjoy, like walking in an urban area, albeit, 30, 40 degrees. It was fine. We were walking, maneuvering around. I don't feel like as much of a turd as I normally do coming back from a trip. We walked by Lumen Field, gave some nice hand gestures to the Seattle Sounders home, and walked by T-Mobile Park, gave a shout out to the Ken Griffey Jr. and the Seattle Mariners. It was a good time. Space Needle, the Ferris wheel, the underground tour. Well, at least half of it anyway, because somebody screwed that one up.
Can we not talk about that on this podcast?
Yeah, maybe I'll bring it up later. But man, Seattle was good. And going to Tacoma, well, technically Kent, Washington was really where we went because that's where the ShoWare Center was. Really nice arena, not only home to the Tacoma Stars, but the Seattle Thunderbirds, the minor league team to the to the Seattle Kraken, and we had a great time, man. Like, this should be a trip that we take on a regular occasion. Everybody was super nice. Big shout out to Pete Richmeyer and the owner, Lane Smith, and obviously all the players that we talked to. We had a really, really good time up there, man. We missed you. Everybody and their mother was asking about you, Doc.
Yeah, you could tell them that I went to go buy tickets to join it, but instead of buying my ticket to Tacoma, I bought it to Tequila instead. And so just a slight spelling error on my part. My apologies. Looked like you guys had
say you were your own taco master.
Ooh, clever. There were
Mm.
lots of tacos in my weekend. That is for sure. Y menudo, y pozole. Oh man,
Oh, we can't wait.
I
We can't
definitely
wait.
need a diet after that one for sure. But I had a blast. I loved checking all the stories you guys posted on the Striking Fury account, folks. If you haven't had a chance to head over to @StrikingFury on all your social media platforms, see all the cool content these two put out. It was great seeing you guys. Go check out the gum wall. I'm sure you guys saw some fish thrown around. You had a Starbucks there at the original Starbucks. I saw you guys.
I didn't do that, man. Wasn't gonna wait in line for that. You know, the line for that Starbucks, and there's three or four more around the corner.
Right
So
next
it's like,
door.
why would I do this? Like, yeah, okay, cool. There it is. I'll take a photo of it. I'll give a thumbs up to the original logo, but I mean, I'm not even a big Starbucks fan. I'm more of a Dunkin' kind of guy. But obviously, in that part of the world, that's blasphemy. But I certainly wasn't going to wait in line for that. The only thing we waited in line for was really nothing, not even the Space Needle.
I hope I can say this on the podcast.
Uh-oh.
This is the name of an establishment. It is not. I'm not using it as a curse word, so I apologize if it's offensive. But the one thing we did wait probably the longest for was breakfast on Saturday morning. We went to a place called Biscuit Bitch, and it was amazing. Like, seriously, the breakfast sandwich that I had with the biscuits that they make there were incredible, and it was worth the 30 minutes that I think it took to make it. And just the way they interacted with you, like, they also had like kind of like that the vibe you would expect a place that had that name to have, and it was a lot of fun and it was delicious. Oh,
yeah,
delicious.
It really was. All the food was good. I'm telling you, we found this little place called Emmett Watson's, not too far from where Starbucks is and the Fish Market. Dude, I'm telling you, Liz and I went through 24, no joke, 24 oysters, and they were phenomenal. Washing it down with some maritime beer. It was oh man, it was delightful. When we go back there together, I got to take you there. So it's a trip worth taking. I mean, maybe when LAFC goes to Seattle, we could take that trip, maybe catch a Mariners game.
That's March 18th. That's not happening. We already talked about this.
Well, all right. Well, then at some point coming back to Tacoma would be a thing. So anyway, that's what we've been up to. And we're giving you this podcast. So we're going to give you as much detail as we can in a brief amount of time, because we got to get to bed, because in less than 12 hours, we're going to be on the road driving to Tijuana to meet the team, to fly out to Monterrey to give you all the English broadcast for the Monterrey Flash and the Empire Strykers on Thursday. Then we're going to hop a plane on Friday, head on over to Chihuahua, and give you that broadcast as well from Corner Sports Arena. So we got a lot of stuff going on and a fair amount of stuff to talk about. And first and foremost, got to give you that flyover with the Empire Jets.
Let's do it.
Oh, I was funny. I was looking for a sound effect, and the only thing I could hear are my cats meowing in the background.
I heard Jonathan. He made the.
Oh, that was. Oh, I heard Hagrid a little louder than I heard John.
Oh, all right. Well, whatever.
I tried.
Anyway,
Sorry.
You did a great job. And just real quick for you guys that are watching this, don't expect too much fun stuff on the way of videos and pictures, because we are literally throwing this together as quickly as we can so we can give you some content, so that when we come back, all we'll have to talk about are the Mexico matches. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So fly over with the Jets. Let's see what happened there, because I think it was another doozy, wasn't it?
It was another doozy. Unfortunately, the boys went up against the Chihuahua Savage 2 again at the YMCA of Upland. And yet again, they ran into a Savage buzzsaw as the team dropped yet another game in the West Division by a score of 12-6. So another tough loss for a team that started out 3-0, but that's okay. Obviously, getting things together and playing against some of the really good squads. I mean, Chihuahua Savage 2, let's not get it twisted. This is a team that when they were in M2 last time around, they went undefeated. They did not lose Hey, oh my gosh, you have that T-shirt. I remember that photo. I love it. I didn't bring anything back from Corner Sports Arena. This time it's going to change. But Chihuahua Savage, they won the M2, and they sent a couple of their M2 boys, well, a lot of their M2 boys for last season. They didn't do so well. They obviously brought in some more players and still had a couple of players like Rene Loya, players like that are back on the M2 side. So the boys gave it as much as they could, unfortunately losing 12-6. Noe Favilla, who actually took the trip to Tacoma. We saw him over the weekend. He had himself a couple of goals in this game, I believe. I don't have too much stats looking here at this website that normally gives us all the team stats. They didn't give us too much here.
They're not very good at updating them, unfortunately. So we can only give you what we know. And fortunately, that's just the score. And
12-6. But, the boys are still doing their thing, still hustling, still working hard. And make sure you check them out next time they play at the YMCA of Upland. So that's just a quick flyover with the Empire Jets. So let's get down to business. Now, we headed into Corner Sports Arena. We headed into the Assessor Showwear Center for the first time in a little while. And that's been a place that's been relatively tough for us to play in. Although the last time we did win there was March the 5th of last season, which, as you all know, was the last time we won last season before we went off on our streak. Going into the weekend, the boys certainly had a lot of hope. They've been on a bit of a winning streak. They swept through Dallas. They beat up on Utica. They beat up on Baltimore. They lost one game to Baltimore, but they've been flying high with only one loss during the season. But let's talk about the game one on Friday. That was the least competitive of the two. But real quick before we get into that, a couple of notable omissions from that game. The team did not fly up Mike Conde Abreu, nor did they fly up Adrian Perez. Now, we don't exactly know why Mike Cohn didn't make the trip. I forgot to ask Jimmy. We do know why Adrian Perez did not make the trip. More information on that later on, but let's get into the game between us and your favorite team name, Doctor, the Taco Masters.
I do love me some tacos. This is very true.
I swear that wasn't me.
No, we couldn't get through this podcast without there being some gremlin action happening. So, Anyways, hear me?
Panda, I think your mic may have gotten unplugged by a gremlin as well too in the process here. You were kind of cutting in and out there for a sec. We got to get you guys a door to that podcast room.
Did you hear that?
I heard that.
All right. So, the cat knocked a couple more things other than hitting applause and the horror sound. So,
can you hear me now?
Más y menos.
Más y menos. I mean, all right. Yay, technology.
Yeah, I can't hear myself.
I got no Panda. Gremlins. Well, why don't I go ahead and kick us off, and I'll get going here while we try and get our way working through Panda's mic. It took a very slow first half. The two people trading goals would be Frank Tayu and Jamel Cox. We're going to go ahead and start it off in the first quarter at the 6:24 mark. So Big Mo wins a ball right outside the yellow line. It was a great aggressive move from him. He then went from beastly to just poetic as he swerved his way through some traffic, fed Frank, who rocketed one, top bins right past Waltman for the opening goal. It was a beautiful shot from Frank. It once again highlighted what I'm loving to see from Mo NDI at the moment, which is just some elegant work at the top of the yellow line there to create the space, find the opening to get to Frank. We go up 1-0. Shortly thereafter, Danny Waltman would get himself a blue card, 2 minutes in the sin bin for a handball outside the box. But hats off to the Tacoma Stars. They went on a solid penalty kill there and were able to shut us down going into the second with the Strykers up 1-0. The 5-minute mark in the second, Tacoma would go ahead and strike back. This goal had a little bit of controversy to it. So I'll take us through the goal, and then I'll try and kick it back to my podcasting partners here to get their thoughts on what they saw. Because I know, and mind you, I was a couple to tequilas deep at the moment when this happened. So perhaps I was a little spicier about it than maybe y'all were in the arena. But Jamel Cox scores, assisted by Caceres, on what was a controversial goal. Ended up being challenged by Jimmy. The challenge was overruled, and the goal stood. But We have Pereira going shoulder to shoulder with Toth right at the outside edge of the box. A tangle between their feet at the same time as Pereira goes shoulder in on him. Finds Toth sitting on his keister as the ball finds its way back out to the middle of the box, where Cox then fires it into the empty net. The Strykers bench was furious that a foul had not been called on Pereira. Through the challenge flag, it went to review, and the goal stood.
Mhm.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, definitely some drama. Can you hear me now? Am I back? Oh, you know what that means? That means my headphones are toast too. So I get to take these off and I don't have to worry about this flat hair. But anyways, yeah, I was sitting not very far from where that happened in the arena. And yeah, it was quite a hit. And I was happy to see him throw that challenge flag, to be honest. And I don't know, I was a little surprised that they didn't call it back. What were your thoughts on it?
So I was on the corner angle of it, so I didn't see Chris go down. I certainly saw the contact between him and Nick, and I heard Chris hit the boards. But I would have assumed that they would have had a foul. I mean, he obviously got hit, and then Caceres, a former member of the Ontario Fury, connected with Jamel Cox, who the more you watch Juice play, the more you realize that this dude is super, super fast. Super talented, very, very good player. And Caceres connects with him, and they get the goal. This would be another one of those moments, another clip that I would love to see on MASL under review, because I didn't think that they would allow that goal to happen. I was surprised that they did, and alas, that was the case. And the first half ends that way, 1-1. Both teams, really feeling each other out over the course of the first 30 minutes of the game. Not as many shots as you would think going into things, but we start the third quarter, and this is really where the Strykers turned it up a notch. This has been the story for them on over a couple of occasions. They really kick things up in the third quarter, and with a team that's so talented and so well conditioned, this is where our boys start to pull over. And happy to report that, well, Superman gets back into the building yet again.
Superman with a fantastic goal. We have been begging for Superman sightings throughout the first early third quarter of the season. He's finally starting to catch his role. I think, look, Nestor 2 years ago was a forward. Nestor last year was a midfielder. Nestor this year started out as a defender. Now he's being kind of used as the super utility man and being placed in a variety of different roles. And I think that takes some time for him to adjust to as a player, for his teammates to figure out exactly where he's going to be. But in this case, Topete fakes a shot, fires to the back post to find Nestor waiting for the tap in. We got ourselves the first of 2 Superman sightings here in the third quarter. That was at the 5:05 mark. We advance ahead to the 8:45 mark, and once again, it is Superman himself. This time, Berto finds a centering ball off the wall from a low corner that was a really beautiful angle. Wallace-Scora. Shouts to our friends at Wallace-Scora. Hopefully we can still try and land them as a guest on the pod. We are efforting that for the future. But in this case, the centering ball finds itself to the feet of Nestor, and it's not a tap in this time. It took a little bit of artistry and magic, and he fired a shot past Danny. We've quickly expanded the lead to 3-1 with back-to-back goals from Superman, and the sequel, Superman 2.
Yeah, it's only going to take 30 seconds for us to see this dynamic duel kind of finally connect for the evening, which had been kind of quiet up until this time. And we're going to see Gabriel Costa from the top of the arc restart. He's going to find Justin the Stinger Stenson. Frank he clears Keats out with a shoulder-to-shoulder hit in the box, and Justin's able to weave around to use the open space to send it into the back of the net. And just like that, we are now 4-1. We are running it up, wouldn't you say?
Running it up, absolutely. And again, third quarter is really where we've been dynamic over the course of the past couple of games. It happened in this game. It happened in the 2 previous encounters with the Dallas Sidekicks. And this is where this team begins to shine. We've seen time and time again them start off slowly and only pick things up within the course of the third quarter. And really that's the game. Tacoma's doing everything they can to get themselves into it. But Chris Toth, coming up to this point of the game, and obviously towards the end of the game, he was magnificent, absolutely magnificent. Like over the course of the past couple of games, he's hardly let anything go past him. As a result of his performance against the Dallas Sidekicks, he was awarded the MASL Defensive Player of the Week accolade, and rightfully so. I mean, he allowed 4 goals perhaps over the course of 2 games, and he was off raring, red hot, and nearly got himself a clean sheet, something that is like a no-no or a perfect game in baseball. He was just amazing. He had 15 or so saves, and we could question like that one goal whether or not it was allowed. I mean, he nearly had the clean sheet there, but I want to say Chris Toth had a magnificent game, but we still had one more goal to go within the fourth quarter, hit by a man who, he had himself a lot of success this past weekend. Doc, why don't you walk us through the final goal of the game for the Strykers?
Frank Tayu, very similar to the goal we saw earlier scored by Nestor Hernandez. Just a quick move to the back post, wide open and a tap in. And very similar to the first goal of the game, the connection between Mo and Frank, something that I'm absolutely loving to see the development of. But in this case, Mo just has a fantastic dime. I mean, once again, he's weaving through players. He's become a magician on top of the ball, way out there at the yellow line, something that we knew we had in his locker, but we hadn't seen early on in his Empire Strykers career. But now that Mo has found his feet and has really figured himself out, the decision to move him from target forward to the back line has been a stroke of genius from Jimmy, because he looks so clean, so comfortable there. I mean, just his ability to muscle off other defenders and find himself just a perfect dime. I mean, the combination of strength and finesse that he has and his ability to dish out and just deal passes from the top is something that I have not seen throughout my tenure of watching this Fury / Strykers franchise. And it's so cool to see him just mold into this role and take it so well. But yeah, he just absolutely dekes 3-4 players off the ball, finds Frank at the back post for a tap in. 5-1, game over. There was a late blue card in the game for too many men when they were trying to figure out what was going on with the sixth attacker and some miscommunication there. But the game had long since been put in the refrigerator at that point. We get to our final score of 5-1. Our stars of the game, first star handed out to Mo NDI for his 2 assists. I really feel like him marshaling the defense and what he was doing defensively to help keep this as low scoring a game as it was is really what gives him first star in my book. Frank Tayu for his 2 goals gets the second star. And arguably man of the match, in my opinion, Chris Toth, 15 saves, 1 controversial goal against, very close to a shutout, but a fantastic performance from the Iceman in net.
No, absolutely. Going to show you why he is one of the best in this game. He had a masterful performance. And yeah, going back to what you're saying about Mo NDI, the entire luck of this team completely turned around when that shift came through. And not only is he just an imposing force on the back, he leads this team in assists. At the conclusion of the Sunday game, he ends up walking away with 13 assists for the season, 16 points. Frank, our leading scorer going into this weekend. Frank remaining our leading scorer after this weekend. He had a great performance on Friday, but it's a mere shadow of what's to come in the game on Sunday. So let's fast forward to that one. Going in, our winning streak, hitting five in a row. So that's really cool. Now, the Sunday game was a lot more competitive. Now, if you were watching it, you will notice that the Tacoma Stars came out with those really pretty black and yellow Valor jerseys. Now, Valor, for those of you who don't know, that is the largest youth organization within that Tacoma, Kent, Seattle area. We're talking thousands of players on there. So they entered into a partnership with the Tacoma Stars. And as a result of that, you were able to not only, you could buy your own jersey without any of the names on the back, which is actually something I did. I'm going to start collecting jerseys from all the teams around the league. I don't think you could see it back there, but I almost had every scarf.
Where are you going to put them?
Where am I going to put them?
Oh my God, you have no room. I wish you guys could see his closet. It's ridiculous. Like the thing, the like pole that it's on, they're all going to fall. It's going to break. I don't know where you're going to put them.
They're
gonna. When did you turn into country Philly?
Country Philly.
I don't know what you're gonna do, but
I'm gonna keep collecting them for the time being. And they were great. They were auctioning them off as well. And I thought of you. There was no Megson, by the way. I did not see him this weekend. I don't know if he was hurt. I didn't recall seeing him on the injury report. And just really quick, one thing I would say, another reason why the Tacoma Stars didn't have as much luck in that first game against us was the absence of Philip Lund. Philip Lund is having a really good season, their third leading scorer. He was not in the game on Friday. He would be in the game on Sunday. So that was just another point I wanted to bring up. But this game had it all, man. In fact, a lot of the games over the course of this MASL weekend had a lot of great action. This was a game that we saw being very one-sided for a significant period of time. Then we saw the Tacoma Stars grind, fight things out, and make this game really interesting. And so let's just talk about what happened really quickly. It only took 2 minutes and 16 seconds for the Empire to strike first. And that came by way of Johnny Thunder. Johnny Thunder being assisted by Nestor Hernandez. He breaks through the first goal of the game with 2 minutes and 16 seconds into it. Nestor and Johnny, they're glued to the hip off the turf. And I love the fact how they're glued to the turf on it. Yes, sir.
Oh, Tacoma, you been thunderstruck.
I like that.
We don't have a sound thing for that, do we? We don't have a button.
No, and
but we need one.
no, and I noticed I forgot exactly where we posted the Thunderstruck Johnny Topete video, but even though you bought the song, your usage of it was denied by one of the social media outlets. So you hear the Johnny Topete, you see the Johnny Topete goal from the previous weekend against Dallas, but you can't hear the sound. Nothing but our sponsors, these guys.
The Crickets. Fantastic. Well, for the record, I did buy that song, so it was mine to do with as I please. So, whatever. Let's move on.
Yep.
It's only going to take us 40 seconds, 45 seconds for the next goal to happen, and it's going to be by way of another great pairing of Mo NDI and Frank Tayu, and that's going to be Frank's first of the night. And we're going to say his name a few more times in this matchup, and that's going to put the Strykers up 2-0.
2-0 indeed. And we saw a lot of goals. We only saw 6 goals over the course of the 4 quarters last game around. We only saw 2 goals between the two teams over the course of the first half of the last game. This game would be far different because within the first quarter, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 goals when it comes down to it. 7 goals. And if indoor soccer is boring to you, you're dumb and you don't have a pulse. And that's the bottom line because Philly 316 said so. Now, it was a clash of heavyweights within this first half. So the next goal of the game scored less than 2 minutes later by way of Nick Pereira, as the doctor likes to call him, the Iberian Brickhouse. When you watch this guy play, you don't have to know anything about him. You don't have to know anything about the game itself. When you watch him, he's a completely different player than most. He's a big, imposing force. He's really good on the ball. His patience in controlling it is unparalleled, and his ability to find the open man is dynamite. And then the last thing you want to have happen is for him to get the ball, turn around, and fire, which is exactly what he did, courtesy by way of Philip Lund, who the Tacoma Stars were greatly missing in that last Friday game. So all of a sudden, we thought the Strykers were going to go off to the races. Nah, Tacoma strikes back. It's 2-1.
It would be a common theme throughout the course of this game that we're going to bring up the likes of Frank Tayu and the Iberian Brickhouse, Nick Pereira. His ability to be so strong up top and yet so versatile with his feet. I mean, he can fire the most thunderous of strike, and yet he can place balls with precision. He can dance atop it so well. I mean, any opportunity to watch Nick Pereira go out and perform is just a joy. I love watching the man play. I hate seeing him score against us, but anytime we suit up against the Taco Masters, you know Pereira's going to do things that only Nick Pereira can do. And you know, for a man at his age, I hate to say it, love you, brother, but, you know, he's getting up there in years. He's an elder statesman within the league, and yet he still has such a dance atop the ball, such a force when he's defending. It's really a pleasure to watch him perform. But the 5-minute, 20-second mark, we're going to have Sweet Pea find himself a dime from Adam James to go ahead and put the Strykers up 3-1. It would take just 3 minutes later for them to double that up and expand the lead to 4-1, with Justin Stinson having himself a solo effort, finding the net. And all of a sudden, it's Strykers 4-1. And it looks like we're going to run away with this one. But wait.
There's more.
There's more. So this turns out to be, like I said, a clash of the Titans, because it goes back and forth between Frank and Nick. Now, there was one play. I was fortunate enough to get some video footage of this game. Like, normally I'm talking about the game, I'm writing notes, I'm doing things. But there was one play in which Chris Toth lobs a pass over into Frank. Frank, it doesn't even touch the ground. It bounces off of his head 3 times, and he goes for the bicycle. Nearly catches Danny Waltman. It just went wide to the right. But that had the potential to be one of the most unbelievable goals you'll see the King make. He didn't make that one, but he certainly made a couple of others, assisted by Mo NDI. Nick Pereira does cut into the lead, an assist by Jamel Juice Cox. 4-2 at the 13:06 mark. But then Frank Tayu comes back, Mo Ndiaye getting himself another dime, connecting with the King, and the King doing King things, turning around, firing golazos, threading the netting, breaking ankles, breaking hearts, setting trends. The King wielding his mighty scepter time and time again, slashing away at the Tacoma Stars. And we go into the second quarter up 5-2.
Yeah, in the second quarter, things are going to start out pretty much how we left them in the first. We're going to see Frank again, the King himself, get a goal by way of Justin Stenson in the 6-minute mark. And now we are 6-2. And it just looks like we are running away with this, but that's not going to be the case. But there's going to be some things get in the way of that along the way.
Yeah, look, here it is. It's Frank, it's Nick. It's Frank, it's Nick. Frank scores a goal, Nick scores a goal. Nick scores a goal, Frank scores a goal. Here in the second, we have Frank leading out at the 6-minute mark with the goal assisted by Stinson, followed just 2 minutes later, Nick Pereira, and this time it's Felipe Souza who's going to go ahead and feed him the ball. It's now 6-3. Well, you know what that means? Frank Tayu's got to get himself another goal. So then at the 14:53 mark, we got Frank Tayu, in this case assisted by Berto, and we're going to go ahead and end the first half with the Strykers up 7-3, a double-digit scoring first half after we just saw 2 goals scored in the first half of game 1. We go ahead and follow that up with game 2 with a 10-goal performance from these guys in the first half. I'm surprised there's any tread left on that turf. They're in Tacoma, or I should say Kent, Washington. Excuse me, forgive me. With just a screamer of a first half, and in the words of Gladiator, are you not entertained?
Absolutely. And, one thing I took away from this was, that first half in the first game and how slow it was. It just felt like they were really feeling each other out a little bit, getting a good idea, of who's playing what. And then once they all both figured it out, then they just started running with it. Because I know one of the guys in the stands, he's like, wow, this is the lowest scoring first half I think I've ever been to. And boy, did that change for the next game. I think they realized what they were working with, and boy, did they give us a show. And man, was it a lot of fun. And hey, the third quarter is going to start, and they're not going to waste any time, Tacoma. They're going to have Jamail Juice Cox by way of Danny Waltman. It's going to feed him the ball, and they're going to claw one back and make it 7-4.
Shortly thereafter, we have a worrisome trend throughout the third quarter for the Empire Strikers, and it's something that has caught this team a few times this year, and it's getting themselves in some foul trouble and allowing teams to get back into a game because they try and shut a game down by getting a little bit too physical. In this case, at the 4:58 mark, we have the first blue card of the third being issued to Berto, and then the boys have to go ahead and extend the energy and put themselves on the power kill. They do go ahead and kill this power play, but they're starting to wear themselves down by getting themselves in the sin bin, something that would pop up in a moment.
Yeah, and I have a little beef with that handling call. If you watch it back, that's so hard. There was nothing about what he did that really I felt was worthy of any of that. I know that did they challenge it or at least just look at it? I can't remember exactly what happened, but I know they definitely looked at it and pulled out the blue card. I don't even think it was there originally in the beginning, but I don't know. It's just a weird ball where because they called that, it makes you think, can you just go and kick a ball into anyone's hand at any point and it be a handball? Because that's basically what he did. He kicked the ball up. It almost went behind him into Berto's hand. And I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to see that one again, or at least get some under review on that one.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. Oh, so I was going to say the official ruling on it, I think, is that if the ball touches your hand, it's a handball, whether it's intentional or not. There is not anything written into the rules that says a handball has to be done intentionally or unintentionally. It's so hard to read cause. So the rules are written simply, if it touches your hand, it's a handball. That is what it is.
Right.
And
so I can just go kick it at someone's hand and be like, haha, handball, blue card.
Yep.
Which I don't think is right, I guess, is what I'm saying. So anyways, I digress.
I want to highlight one quick thing just that we didn't mention at the end of the first half. Frank had 4 goals. Frank had 4 goals and Nick Pereira had 3 goals. Titanic performances by 2 Titanic players. So I just wanted to make sure we address that. And whereas the third quarter was normally something that we would dominate over the course of the last 3 games, Tacoma was the team that really took things to the Strykers within that third quarter. They got the confidence they needed. Now, you said it, that Robert Palmer blue card, that penalty was killed. And then a couple minutes after that, we do see the Tacoma Stars get one by way of Mike Ramos, a kid Kid Clutch, or is it Kid Dynamite? I always get his nickname and Gordy Gerson's nickname messed up, but he connects. Logan Jones has it, and now we're off of Logan Jones, and now we're looking at a score of 7-5, and starting to scratch your head, going, "Oh no, the momentum has shifted." Tacoma now has the advantage. They have the crowd into it. The crowd that was there was very supportive of their Tacoma team. Are the Empire Strikers going to do what they have done in the past, and that's let their foot off the gas and let the other team in the game? We shall see. But before that third quarter ends, this is where we kind of get stuck with something. And right off the bat, we get Johnny Topete getting a blue card for tripping, and that's going to affect us starting the fourth quarter.
There was 1 second left in the quarter. Johnny Thunder, we love you, brother, but there was 1 second left. You had no business going in with the sliding tackle there. He does get the ball, and so I appreciate that he gets the ball, but the follow through takes him right into the player. It's right in front of the ref, and he gets up and says, "Oh, I got the ball first." It doesn't matter if you get the ball first if you absolutely clatter through the player afterward. And I mean, there was maybe 2 seconds left when he went for the slide. 1 second left after that. It wasn't in a position. It's against the boards. It was way down. There was absolutely no reason to go in for the challenge in the first place. He simply lost track of the game clock. It was poor game management from Johnny Topete. He came in way too strong. And right after they had just clawed within 2, as we know, a 2-goal lead is nothing in indoor. You've got to play smart at this point. And it's frustrating that once again, these mental mistakes, I feel like I've said that phrase far too often this season, just come back to haunt us. And we're going to go ahead and basically start the fourth quarter with a full minute 59-second power play. And it really only took about 20 seconds of that power play in before Sebastian Navarro gets fed from Juice Cox. Now it's just a 1-goal game, and you're starting to feel like this game is in peril.
Yeah, 2 minutes later, what we feared was going to happen, it's going to happen by way of Alex Caceres. They're going to tie it up. He's going to get a goal. It's going to be 7-7. And I have to tell you what was going on with me at that moment, because it was kind of funny. So I had the Strykers Savage game on my phone on Twitch, and I was in one of the suites there at the arena, and they had the KC Cincinnati game on. Everybody at one moment was tied up at the exact same time. They were waiting for a field goal in KC to go to take
Cincinnati.
it.
Oh, football. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Don't you bring oblong ball into this conversation. We're
I'm
having
just
a beautiful,
saying,
beautiful conversation about this lovely, lovely, real football. And you got to go bringing that into it.
You're talking to the Rams fan of the year. Sorry.
All I'm saying is there were 3 games going on simultaneously that were all tied. And we were just, there was so much going on, and all of them had controversy. There was something going on with Mahomes and saying he flopped. There was something going on with, in San Diego with a possible contact above the shoulders.
It's a boy Morgan foul, yeah.
And then we've got us, we're tied up, and oh my gosh, it was just insane. And let me tell you, I don't get a yellow card for that. What was great was I wanted Cincinnati Bengals to win. They lost. I kind of wanted Chihuahua to beat Strykers. And Strykers won. And I was like, okay, this is not going to be a trifecta tonight. And oh my gosh, thank God at 13:55 in the fourth, we are going to see Johnny Thunder. He is going to strike. He's going to get back for that blue card that he caused at the end of the third. By way of Gabriel Costa, he's going to send us up a goal. And whew, I think we could all breathe just a little easier at that moment. We were not in good company when we started cheering. Like I said, we were in a suite.
I wanted to tell the story. Yeah, you're gonna help me out with this. I wanted to paint that picture, and you hammer it home.
I'll do my best.
All right, so just real quick, the goal by Alex Caceres. Alex Caceres, we have a soft spot for him because he was a member of the Ontario Fury, and he did quite well for our organization. I can say that because he was Ontario Fury during that time period. That was off of a restart, and it was just outside of the goal. Nick Pereira faked that he was going to go for it, and then Caceres slammed it past Chris Toth. It was so freaking quick, man. We were right behind the goal during that time. A simple blink of an eye, and you would have missed it. So now the game is tied. When Johnny Topete put us up, we were in a suite with, Juice Cox's family, and a couple of other really lovely people that are huge Tacoma Stars fans. Obviously, everybody was getting into the game. Everybody was cheering loudly for their team. I was keeping quiet, keeping kind of mum.
You don't keep quiet.
Fine. They knew who we were. They were very polite. Everybody was so super nice coming up to us over in the concourse, saying how much they loved our show, our efforts, our broadcast, our enthusiasm, all that stuff. But it kind of got ugly, bro. Like, I thought Juice Cox's mom was going to kill me. No joke. I thought she was going to kill me because when Topete scored, the only person you can hear screaming in the arena was me. I'm like, yes, that a boy Johnny. And then all of a sudden, everybody all around me stopped and stared at me. And I did one of those, like imagine Homer Simpson going into the bush.
I literally grabbed him and I'm like, you can't do that here. And I threw him out in the hallway and I'm like, here, cheer now. And it was all funny. Everybody in the suite actually laughed. They understood it. But yeah, if looks could kill, you died like 10 times.
Oh, she had daggers in her eyes. And the worst part about it was they remained on me. It got to the point where I was like feeling uncomfortable. She was turning around, looking at me, giving me the mean mugs. And I'm just like, look, if the roles were reversed, like, you would have done the same thing. Like, I'm sorry. If I offended you, I'm sorry. I genuinely apologize on a number of occasions.
It's okay. You know, you're in their house. Like, hey, you know, they just went down a goal in a game that they had fought back, you know. So, you know, hearts were feeling it. It was emotional. And thankfully for us, though, we were not on the receiving end of the sadness. So
no.
And that was not going to be the last goal of that game, thankfully. They were going to have the 6th attacker come out for Tacoma, and thankfully we're going to see Nestor Hernandez by way of Izzy Cisse. We're going to go ahead and just put the nail in the coffin. It's going to end up 9-7. Strykers get all 6 points this weekend. And let's talk real quick about the Stars because we are very confused.
Very, very confused indeed. Reimer, what do you think?
I'm ready to talk about the Stars in just a second. I want to go back to your moment. You missed a brilliant opportunity to go right there in. I'm not sure his mother's name. I'm just going to say Mrs. Cox. You could have got right in her face and said, "You've been."
I don't know, man. Her Mr. Cox is a pretty big, imposing figure. The last thing I wanted to do was get manhandled by him. He would have thrown me from the top of the suite onto the turf. He looked like he could have been a former member of the Seattle Seahawks. Big, strong guy. So the last thing I wanted to do was ruffle anybody's feathers. Luckily, he wasn't the one with the daggers in his eyes.
He was very, very nice.
Everybody was super
nice.
nice.
So, yeah. You know, it was all in good fun at the end of the day. But again, we got to take home the points and they didn't. But anyways.
The stars of the game. Now, I'm not exactly sure how they landed the way they did. Nick Pereira had a hat trick. All right. He gets a star nonetheless. But the first one, all right. Why? Frank had 4 goals. Frank had the more dominating performance. And as much as I love the potential newcomer of the year, Gabriel Costa had 1 assist in the game. Mo Ndiaye could have been a much better candidate for this with his 2 assists, his defensive prowess. There are a couple other players that were certainly noteworthy of getting a star. As much as I love Gabe, this wasn't his game to get a star in, if I do say so myself.
I mean, Johnny Topete had 2 goals, the game winner on top of it. Like, he had the game-winning goal. He had 2 points. Nestor had 2 points. Stinson had 2 points. Mo had 2 points. So, again, I guess I don't understand how they award these stars. I mean, I don't know. Even Jimmy, he was like, I love you, Gabriel, but I don't get it. You know, like, I just need to know more about that.
I mean, even if Juice Cox had a heck of a game. He could have gotten the 3rd star. I'd have been fine with that. Nick Pereira had no business getting the 1st star. It should have been Frank. He scored Absolutely. 4 goals. How do you score 4 goals and not get the 1st star? I look, some of these games, the stars make perfect sense to me. I would say it's about 20% of the time, I completely agree with the stars given out. And 40% of the time, someone gets on that list or gets higher on that list than someone else. And I have absolutely no idea why. I have no clue who puts these together. I would love to find out if someone out there knows how these stars are awarded and given out. Please drive into them DMs and let us know what is going on here, because this is an outrage. And if it actually mattered, this would be criminal. But it doesn't matter at all. So I'll let it go and I'll get off my soapbox. No more rants with the doctor here. But it's a very curious thing. You know, I don't know who gives them out for our team. I don't know if it's an official scorers thing. Yeah, we'll have to ask Bino about this, but I have no clue how the stars were given out, but they definitely Pereira should not have gotten the first star in this game. Anytime the player on a losing team gets the first star and a player on the winning team outpointed them in the game, it makes no sense to me whatsoever. But anyway, we're moving on, and we're not only moving on, we're moving.
Well, before, real quick, Doc. Sorry, I just to kind of wrap this up in a bow. We talk about Frank. One video clip that we saw on the social media for the Strykers that really like warmed my heart. It was when Frank was given the man of the match belt. Frank is all business. All business, the cerebral assassin, if you will, very deep, philosophical, well-read, highly intelligent young man. But the smile on his face when he was given that man of the match belt, that was genuine. I saw a kid in a candy shop so unbelievably happy and thrilled to be receiving the belt. And it genuinely put a smile on my face because we've been around the king a lot. And we've had a lot of conversations with the king. We've hung out, had dinner, like, toasted with the king. I've never really seen him smile as genuinely as he did there. So that really warmed my heart. I mean, the man had 6 goals over the weekend, a masterful performance. And if he's not given offensive player of the week this time around, I am going to be shocked and appalled. In addition to Frank, Mo NDI, 4 beautiful assists over the 2 games. And last but not least, I want to tip my hat off to this team for the following reason. Not normally, but last season, they would have found themselves up in a game, giving up a couple of leads, and then mentally falling apart and the wagon falling off of the tracks. These guys stuck to it, grinded it out, didn't allow Tacoma to completely get back into the game. Sure, they tied it after being down 7-3, but they continued to fight. They continued to steamroll through things, and they ended up being rewarded with another win. Fantastic. 6-game winning streak, only the 3rd time in franchise history this has ever happened. First time, 2014, 2015. Second time, 2018, 2019. Oh, no. That season, 2019, 2020, when we ran into COVID. Only the 3rd time have we gone on this kind of a run. Winners of 8 out of the last 9. We're heading into February, having played a bunch of games, only losing the one time to the Baltimore Blast at CQ Arena. So great performance by this team. 2 huge wins against the Stars, 2 huge wins against the Sidekicks. And that's important because we're running into a territory where this organization, this franchise has never, ever won before.
I have one last thought on this game as well, too. And I'm sorry, it's going to be a rant once again. And I know people are tired of kind of hearing these rants at this point in time in the season, but I'm going to rant about camera angles here for just a brief second. And I know that the league is doing everything it can to mandate teams to have more camera angles, and I love that. But Mr. Tozier, if you're listening, Mr. Della Camera, Mr. Messing, please, new rule. I know we've talked about not having new rules in the middle of the season, but I would love for this new rule to happen. No more cameras behind the glass, please. That Johnny Topete goal to give us the lead, the only camera angle they showed of it was one behind the glass. And you've got can't see. There's the glass in the way. It's got puck marks on it and sweat from where a player's been thrown into it. And it just is so infuriating. These stadiums are so big. There's plenty of room to put a camera somewhere up and zoom in to where you can see the action and not have to have a camera straight up against the glass looking through the glass. It's infuriating to me that there was no second look that you could see. None of the other angles showed a goal. Like, how do we miss a goal? Or how is it the only look through the glass? And a couple other arenas do this as well, too. We even experimented with it ourselves back in the day. And I know you and I have had conversations with our own broadcast team about how it's not a good look. And I don't like it when the camera is looking down through the glass. Get one in the center there, do as best you can, get everybody else up and zoom them in. I'm done with looking through the glass when the camera is showing it that way. It's just not a good look for the league. And it kind of ruined the celebration of this goal because you couldn't even really see it go in. I mean, thank you. We had a great broadcast team up in Tacoma, did a killer job calling the games. Really great play-by-play action there. So, I mean, it sounded great, But the goal itself, just, I mean, we couldn't see it. And from a highlight perspective, from wanting to go back and celebrate these players and reshare those things, please, no more cameras behind the glass. All right, I'm off my soapbox. My suitcase is packed. Let's talk about what we're doing tomorrow.
Getting in a car and driving to Tijuana and hitting San Diego rush hour as we do that. That's what we're about to do. And I have to. Hang on a second. Ugh.
Yep.
Yep.
Gonna be a trip.
Heading down to mainland Mexico, a place that has not been very kind to this organization. And what I mean by mainland is there was a time period several years ago in which the former Ontario Fury did manage to catch some wins against Baja. We've never been successful in Monterrey. We've never been successful at Corner Sports Arena. And you and I know Corner Sports Arena better than anybody in this league does, other than the players, because we've been down there. Arena Monterrey is a loud, huge, imposing place. And so we have an interesting game on our hands on Thursday at Arena Monterrey at 6:05 Pacific Standard Time against the Monterrey Flash team that is composed of some really good veterans and some really, really good young players. I think you have 3 or 4 players on this team over 40 with extensive experience. Now, this gentleman right here who leads the team in points isn't one of those 40-year-olds, but Quick Mendoza, their leader in points, this is a guy that's played, Quick Mendoza. This is a guy that's played at some of the biggest clubs in Liga MX. A very imposing force. I mean, had his most caps at Club America, played at Cruz Azul, the Pachucas of the world. An outstanding player. Eric Tovar, who's had a couple of stints with the Monterrey Flash on that 2015 Ron Newman Cup team. You got Walter Ayobi, who 2 World Cups, man. 2 World Cups for Ecuador and had a hell of a career at Rayados in Monterrey. I mean, they have some really, really talented players and one of the best keepers in the history of the Major Arena Soccer League, and that of the maestro himself, Diego Reynoso.
There are a lot of former Liga MX, primarily Tigres players on this team. The Monterrey team is stacked. I mean, Monterrey and Chihuahua are really, really good teams. I know a lot of people are looking at the standings right now and saying, "Yay, Strykers are in second place," and we passed both the Mexican teams. I'm sorry, folks, that's just not the case in my book. If you look at it at points per game, I still feel like this Empire Strikers team is further down in the power rankings than either of these 2 Mexican teams. And right now, I think we're a better team than Tacoma. We proved that this weekend. We're certainly a better team than Dallas, not to shovel on them because they've got a whole heap of troubles going on themselves. But as far as the top 4 in the West right now, I think you would be hard pressed to put the Strykers in the top 4 in the West until we show we can go on the road and win in Mesquite, Chihuahua, Monterrey, or San Diego. Until we get W's on the road in one of those arenas, I think it's going to be very difficult to put the Strykers in the top 4 in the West right now. I think we're a playoff team. I think we're the last playoff team right now. But this weekend is going to be pivotal. And if this franchise could find its first win in mainland Mexico, because we've never won in Sonora, we've never won in Chihuahua, we've never won in Monterrey. If we could somehow scratch out a dub in one of these 2 games this weekend, it would be massive. And looking at these 2 teams, I think most people would have Chihuahua ranked a little bit higher than Monterrey, but they are a stellar team with sensational talent top to bottom on this roster, especially when they're playing south of the border and they have their full roster at their advantage. This is going to be a very, very difficult game, both this one and the one in Chihuahua. But this weekend could be very telling in the power rankings if the Strykers are to go ahead and slide their way up. Winning one of these 2 games, I think, would easily cement us as a top 4 team and move us out of that 5th spot in my book.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I mean, it's tough, and it's going to be an interesting matchup. Monterrey is one of those teams that'll lull you into this false sense of confidence up until the 4th quarter. Then all of a sudden, just run you right off of the turf. We've seen them do it time and time again against several teams within this league. But I don't know if they've gone up against a team as well conditioned as the Empire Strikers. The Strikers can run. They can run with the best of them, and I'm going to go out there on a limb and say they could run better than anybody else can. Obviously, winning games is a different story. There are other teams out there that have done a little better than the Strykers have. But I don't question the Strykers' ability to run into a game and outwork somebody from a stamina perspective. Monterrey's going to bring it. They're absolutely going to bring it. They've even signed in a couple of other players. They brought in Eric Flores recently, and then they also recently signed former Ontario Fury player and San Diego Soccer Victor Quiros, who an interesting career. Played on the beach Mexican national teams. Very interesting career and a veteran of this game. So they're bolstering their lineup with talented veterans that are going to really give it to a lot of these teams within the West. So that's the story really quickly with Monterrey. And then you and I know very well because we called those games last season. Corner Sports Arena was a house of horrors for the Empire Strikers. And a lot of the players that are there doing things, they were the same players that were there doing it to us last time, between Flaco and Quique Cañez, Escalante, one of the best defenders out there, Hugo Puentes, and of course the general, Berna Valdovinos. I mean, this is going to be another tough game for the Strikers.
It's not going to be a fun trip for the boys. They definitely have their work cut out for them. It is going to be a fun trip for the three of us because, folks, once again, we are heading Mexico, and we are not only just going down to have a good time and maybe have a few tacos, y un poco tequila, maybe some sotol, but we are going down to broadcast these games and bring them to you in English. And we could do this from a soundstage, and that might happen in the future. But to get a real sense for what the teams are going through, the experiences they're having, and to be able to translate all of that to you in the broadcast, I'm so appreciative and so blessed to work for a franchise that sees the value in describing this experience to the fans to the point where they have foot the bill to send all three of us, not only the broadcast team, but our amazing sideline reporter as well, too. We're going to be doing a ton of social media work and coverage down there so that you, the fans, can get a sense for what these players deal with when they go down there. So we're going to be sending you guys videos from airports, from restaurants, traveling on buses, entering and exiting arenas, seeing all the things that these players end up having to do when they travel south of the border. Something that the fans don't see when a broadcast kicks live, the lights go up and you see a stadium. In fact, I would say that the camera angles in some of these stadiums really paint a very different picture than you and I experienced walking around these stadiums, especially in the case of Corner Sports Arena. When you see the broadcast, it's very, very different than what you see when we walk around. So we're so excited to be able to bring this opportunity for the fans. Panda, I know you're going to be kind of spearheading a lot of the social media stuff here, and I'd love to hear you touch on that because you have quite a bit of work cut out for you in what I believe is your first trip to Mexico.
Yeah, a lot of exciting first is going to be happening. But yeah, I've never been to Mexico. This will be my first time. So what better way to do it than to do it with this team and all of you, and I'm really excited. So yeah, for the social media aspect, I mean, we'll definitely be bringing you content, hopefully make it fun and not just boring videos. And yeah, I'll see what I can do. If anybody listening has any suggestions or things that they want to see, or any insight that you would like to get a little bit more of a view of, let us know. Send us a message, hit us up on Facebook, whatever it is that you'd like to speak to us on, and we'll try to get that content out to you so that you can feel like you are there with us in the stadium. And yeah, I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. So I'll try to get some sound bites, maybe in the beginning or at the half, to kind of hand off to you guys to also read on the broadcast as well.
Absolutely. I've got nothing more to say. We're going to be under an hour for the first time in a while. Let's wrap this thing up. We got kind of packing to do, some sleep to get, and a long drive. Yes, doctor?
I just have one last thing to say, though. Strike hard.
Defend the Empire.
No mercy. Did we do it?
I think we did, and under an hour. Yeah.